The next topic we will explore is date format. Date format is also a date function, and date formats are used to return a date or a time value, but then it is printed in a different format, or if you will, in a different way. When we take a look at our messenger table under the created at column, we've got to think to ourselves that there has to be a better way in which those dates and time are displayed. Let's switch over and see what I'm talking about. I will switch over to the company database because that's where I have the messenger table. And let's print that out. So right now we have our created at column, and yes, over the last few videos we've been tweaking the date and time values, but there's got to be another way in which we can display the date and time values within this column. We might want to, for instance, print out the day as in maybe a Monday, Tuesday, a Friday, as opposed to just having the date. We may want to exclude the year or just print out the hour, whatever we want to do. There has to be like other ways in which we can display this, because if you think about it, on your phone that shows that timestamp which we've talked about, you don't see those timestamp in this format. This is really not nice. It's also not really readable. I mean, you can easily figure out that it's the year and the time, but it's not user friendly, if you will. We can also, if we were to select let's use the get date to just get the current date and time. Oops, sorry. Execute. And looking at this again, it's really not different from what we saw earlier on. We just have the year, the day, the year, the month, and the day, and the time all together. There's got to be another way in which we can display those values, and this is where date format comes to play. And there's a whole lot of date format world and different ways in which we can display. Each different countries even have different ways in which they display dates and time values, and there's a whole lot of world, a lot of ways in which we can do that. And we would dive into it and see some of the different formats that are available. The syntax for using a date format is we have the keyword format. Bear in mind, again, we have to start with our select keyword, but the syntax itself is we have format, and then in parentheses we have we have the first argument, which is the value, and the value would be either the date that we want to format, or the time value, or the date time value. And then the format would be the type of format, or the way we want that value to be displayed. So I will make a comment here, and I'll just call this date formats. And I'll write out the syntax again, just so we have that here. So we have select. Well, I'm just gonna without the select. So we have format, and then we have the value that we want to format, and then we have the format or the type of the way we want that value to be displayed. Okay, so we'll just use the get dates to get the current date, and then I would show you some of the different formats that we have. So we'll start with select. We have our keyword format, and then before we do, okay, so we have like the get date. So assuming we only want to print out the year, the month, so just the date part, so we start our format with the date part and not the time part, okay? And right now, if we look at this, I'm just going to run this one more time. If we look at the getDate function, it returns 2020-07-18. What if we, instead of having the dash, we want it to be a forward slash? How do we do that? So we can use the format, we can use the date format to do that. So we have select, we have a keyword format. Now the value will just use getDate, and this would give us the current date and time information, and then comma, so that's the value. And now the type of format we want to use. So we'll put that in strings, and I will explain shortly why it is in strings. So I'm going to type this out first. DD represents the day, and then slash, and then in uppercase, forward slash, and then YY. Okay, and then I'll close this. So let's go through this quickly, looking at the syntax. So we have the format, the keyword. The value is the getDate, because that's going to return the current date and time of your computer. And then all of this is the format. So what we're saying is that when you print out those dates, potentially this date and time value, I want you to print it out in this format. I want the day, but the day will be two digits day. I want the month. Now the month has to be in uppercase. Like when we write the MM, it has to be in uppercase. That's just the way it's coded. And then we have forward slash and then YYY, which will be 4 digits year. Okay, let's run. And the reason why, let me run this first. So execute. Okay, so now we have the day 18/07 of July 2020. And the reason why I didn't explain this earlier on, the reason why we have all of this in strings, in quotes, is because, and we're making it a string value, is because when you look at the results set, we have the slash, and yes, we have some numbers which are, which you could consider integers, but we also have the slash, which is not an integer. It's almost like it's a symbol, if you will. So, but we know that when we put anything in quotes, we can pass pretty much most value as long as we have it in quotes, which then makes all of this value become a string value or a character value by putting it in quotes, and that's why we do that. Okay. So just to quickly go through again, we have our format. Originally, getDate will come in dash 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 and give us also the time. But right now we're saying return the current, use this function, the getDate, to return the date and time value. But we want it to be in this format. We want 2 digits day, 2 digits month, and 4 digits year. And when we run that, we get this. Okay, and we can of course give an alias as, and we can just say as date. Okay, execute. All right. What if instead of starting with the day, we want the month to start? So we want it to be like July 18, 2020. We can do that as well. I'm just going to copy this because it's going to be the same thing for the most part. And now just going to delete all of this. We want to start with the month. And again, the month has to be in uppercase. So we have MM slash, and then we want the day, DD slash, and then we want the year, which is YYYY. And when we run this, now it sort of changes the location. We have the month, July 07/18/2020. Now, another thing we can do is right now we have the year displayed as 4 digits. If we want, we can display just the 2 digits, so just 20. And all we need to do for that is I'm going to copy this again. And instead of having 4 Ys, all we need is just have just have 2 Ys. When we run this, now it prints just the 2 digits of the century. What if we want the first value to be the year followed by the month and the day. Gonna copy this, paste it. All we need to do is we just switch the order, and we have y, 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 y. If we want the 4-digit year, /, and then we want the month will be in uppercase, /, and then we have the day, dd. And let's run that, and it gives us the year, the month, and the day. And now, so far we've been using /, but we could do the same thing, and instead of /, we could just use the dash sign. Let's copy. I'm just gonna copy this, make a little space, scroll down. So all we're trying to do now is to replace the / with a dash. And when we run this, just so it's clear, I'm gonna run both together. So now we have our second query is now dash because that's the format we've indicated, right? And maybe just one more. I'm just gonna copy this, paste, and I'm just gonna dash, dash. And when I run those, so now we have the month, we have the day, sorry, we have the month, the day, and the year. So looking at this date, what if we want to print out, so we have the year, the month, and the day, right? But what if we want to, instead of printing out the number 18, we want to actually print out what day of the week the 18th is? So is it a Monday? Is it a Tuesday? Is it a Friday? How can we do that? We have July. What if we, instead of printing out 07, we really want to print out July? So we wanted to say Friday, July 2020, something like that. We can do that as well. And I'll write out the query first. So select. All right. So what we're saying is this. So the format to do that will be we have so we have D to indicate the day. We have 4 M's to indicate the M, and the M is uppercase. And then we have 4 Y's to indicate the year. Let's run this. So now we see it says Saturday, July 2020. And we could even, if we choose to remove the comma, we could do that. We're gonna copy this, paste. So let's say I remove the comma, so it's just gonna be Saturday, comma, July 2020. So we see that happens there. And we can also copy I'm gonna copy this again, paste. If we want, we can say we can decide not to include the year and say just print out the day, write out the day and then the month. When we run this, we get Saturday, July. I'm gonna copy this again and paste. We can also exclude the month and just print out the name of the day, so Saturday, right? But then if we look at, I'm going to run this first query again, just saying Saturday, July 2020 doesn't really help because there's maybe at least 4 Saturdays within the month. So which Saturday is this, right? And this is where we can do something like this. I'm going to write out the query first. So what we're trying to do is for it to print out as, I'm just making an example here to say something like this: a Saturday, 18, 18 July 2020, if you will. Yeah, maybe, and then maybe like a comma somewhere there, all right? So we want it to print out like this, all right? So what we'll need this because this will print out the day. So I'm gonna copy this and then tab, and then we want the format of, and we get date. And now what's the format that we want? So we want it to say 18, which is the day. So that will be DD. That should be small lowercase DD. And then comma, we want a comma there. And then we want it to spell out the month. So it's going to be uppercase M, M. And then we want the 4 digits. Yeah, we could do the 4 digits here. All right, we close now. So before we run this, let's quickly go through it. We know this one, the first, column would give us the day, right? And then the second column will give us the day in figure, and then it will spell out the month because now we have 4 M's, not 2M, which 2M will give us just the figure. And then we have 4 Y's, which gives us the 4 digits year. So let's run this. So now we see Saturday, 18 July 2020. But also these are 2 different columns, right? So if you think about it, if we want to merge these 2 columns together so that it really says Saturday, 18 July 2020, what do we do? Of course, we can use concat, right? I'm just going to copy this. So paste that. So what we want to do is we want to concatenate this first column with the second column, right? We just have a concat keyword. We open our parentheses, and then we need a space. I'm gonna and then we'll close. Let's close the concatenation. I'm gonna run this first. So we have Saturday, 18 July 2020. Yeah, we don't really need a space there. Yeah. So all we did was just add concat, and we're concatenating this column and this column, right? So we open our parentheses here, and then we closed it, right? And that gives us that. And we can use an alias, and I can say as date. Let's say a new date. Execute. So far, we've seen how to apply some different formats to the date part of the date time value. Let's see how we can do some formatting on the time part as well. All right, so I'm going to first print out the current date and time. So we'll use the getDate function. When we run this, we have our date and then we have the time. All right, so let's try out some format. And I would write this out first and then we'll go through it together. Okay, so what do we have here? So we have our format keyword because what we're trying to do is to format the get date, which is the value, which gives us the current date and time. But now we're saying we don't need you to print out the date part. The time part, we want it to be printed. We want the hour, we want the minute, and we want the seconds. Let's run that. So now it shows us 034009. But of course now, we can't really tell if this is 3 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon. So there's another way we can format that so that it tells us if it's AM or PM, because this is showing us a 12-hour clock, not a 24-hour period. So to do that, we just need to add TT. So we have HH for hour, MM for minutes, SS for seconds, and then by adding this TT, it tells us if it's AM or PM. So now we can see it's 3:40, 50 seconds, 3 PM, but 3:40 PM. But we can also, if we want, we can exclude, because right now it's showing us the hour and the minutes and the seconds, right? But if we don't need that seconds, we can exclude that And all we need to do is I'm going to copy this again and paste. We know that the H is for the hour, M is for the minute, S is for the seconds, and TT really is just telling us if it's AM or PM. So all we need to do is just exclude the SS, which is the seconds. And when we run this, it shows us 3:42 PM. Now that we know how to format the date part as well as the time parts, we can of course combine both the date and the time together, because remember, get date is a date and time. It returns the date and time value, but just because the way we're formatting it, we're only just choosing to either print out the date or print out the time. But of course we can combine both of them together. And to do that, let's say we want to let's start with the I'm just gonna copy this. Actually, let's just type it all. So we have select, format, we want get date, and we want to start from the date. So we want DD, we want the date, the day. Let's use the /. We want the month, and then we want the year. Okay, and then to add the time, we just add a space, and then we have HH, MM, TT. We close our strings. We close we add the closing quotes, and so now we have the day, the month, the year, 2 digits. Then we have the hour, the minute, and then whether it's AM or PM. So let's run this, and it shows us, so we have 18th July 2020, 3:44 PM. And no, we don't have to start with the date. If we want, we can, display the time before the date. So let's copy this. I'm gonna paste, and what I'll do is I'm just gonna cut this and then paste it in front, and then we make a space. So now instead of having the date coming first, we're having the hour, the minute, the second, AM or PM, and then we have the date. So let's run this, execute, and if we want, we can add an alias to that as well. Now let's try and apply some of the date functions we've learned to our messenger table. First, I'll print out the table. And what we will try to do is this. So we have our created at column. And instead of having all of this date and time all together, what we want is, let's print out, let it be displayed as something like this. So it's going to say Friday at 8:52 PM. So we need the date part. From the date part, all we need is this date, which is 17. And instead of having it as 17, we will print out the day. So if it's a Monday, if it's a Wednesday, Saturday, whatever the case may be. And then we want the time, but we don't need all the seconds. We just need to show either 8:52 AM or 8:52 PM, depending on when this information was entered into our table. All right. So let's do this together. All right, so what we'll start is we need a select, and we want to format, and the column we want to work on is created at. That's the value. And then the type of format we want is we just want to print out the day from the date. So we have DDDD, and that should do it. Okay. Now the second column we want to print out the time, but we want to print out the hour, the minutes, the seconds, and then whether it's AM or PM. So we use our format again, and we're formatting the same column, created at, but now we want the hour, the minute, and then we don't need the second, so we just need TT to tell us if it's AM or PM. Okay, and from messenger. And this should really do it, but this is not complete. I'm gonna run this first and show you what I mean. So right now it just says Friday and we have the time. We want this to be in the same column, right? So we have to concatenate these two columns. So to do that, we will, because I'm taking it one step at a time, yes, it's just a little bit clean. So what we'll do is now we can add our concat keyword, and then we're going to concatenate this first column with, we want it to say at, so it's going to say Friday at 8:52 a.m., right? But we need a space before and after this first column. And then we want to concatenate that with the second column, right? So we're concatenating this first column with at, and then we'll concatenate that with the second column. And now we have to close our parentheses, right? And we can give this an alias. Let's say we want to call it as, let's call it date underscore time. All right. So let's run this. So now it says Friday at 8:52 a.m. That's when all of those messages were sent. But now we can, of course, add the other column so we see was this, so that we can see the message, but also who is sending that message, right? I'm gonna copy this again. I don't really have to do this, but just so you know, we're sort of doing it one step at a time. So let's say we want to see the first thing we want to see is the username, comma, and then we want to see the messages, message, comma, and then we have all of this, right? So we have the username, the message, and then we have this column that we've concatenated. Execute. So now we can see that Bob101 wrote the first message, hey, what are you up to? And that was at 8:52 a.m. Dave responded, nothing much, what are you up to? Just chilling, might go out for a run later. Dave says, cool, let me know when you're back, I have something to tell you. And then later, no man, just tell me now. And then it's not a big deal. Relax, I'll call you in an hour. So when you look at those conversations again on your phone, this is what it would look like. You have the timestamp showing the time all of those messages occurred. You probably won't see the username, you know, when you're doing those text back and forth. And so it's going to be like this. And what I can do is I can comment out that username. And this is also just to show you that you don't always you can do like an in-query comment. You know, normally this will print out the username, but by commenting that out, now if I run all of this query, it just excludes the username, and now we see just the message and the timestamp.